Here.
Commissioner Garvin,
Here.
Commissioner Macy Baker.
Here. Great. And then I'm going to call on Chad Hudson.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Good.
Thank you, Dad.
Enjoying the beautiful weather. Well, yeah, we want to come to commission today. So at the February 18th meeting, we came to the commission seeking an exemption from competitive procurement and to opt in to go with the construction manager general contractor alternative contracting method. And at the same meeting, that was approved via resolution 2025-1. We also asked to go out for a formal RFP process for that CMGC contractor. Since that time, staff has negotiated its way through the CMGC process. We held a mandatory pre-proposal conference on March 27th. We had representatives from 14 different contracting firms. I think there's actually 17 or 18 people there. So we had a great turnout. We had a public proposal opening on April 8th, and we received 7 responsive proposals. So we had a lot of reading to do. So we had a 5-person evaluation committee comprised of water and light employees to evaluate those processes. You'll note in the memo in front of you that there is an evaluation criteria, and I noted those and the maximum points for each scoring criteria. There was a maximum of 500 points available to each proposer for the proposal phase. Once we were done with the proposal process and a review of those, staff issued a notice of competitive range to all proposers, signifying, giving them the scoring and the rankings, and also letting those know who will be able to go to the phase 2 interview. So we did a multi-tiered process here where we did the phase 1 proposal and then the phase 2 interviews. The notice did provide a 7-day protest period to those who weren't invited to the interviews, because they were not able to go advance through a selection process. There was no, upon the expiration of the protest period, we did not receive any protests. And so we proceeded into interviews with the top 2 scoring CMGC firms. And those were PNC Construction and Bremick Construction. After the interviews were concluded, PNC Construction was the highest ranked proposer, and staff is seeking a motion to issue a notice of intent to award and enter into contract negotiations with PNC Construction. The scope of the contract will be for pre-construction services, for investigations, constructability review, design assistance, estimating, etc. The hope is the performance of these steps are intended to lead to a guaranteed maximum price. If staff is able to negotiate a contract for pre-con services with PNC Construction, we would bring that contract back to the commission for approval at a later commission date or meeting date. And a side note, if for some reason we can't get a contract negotiated with PNC, we reserve the right to go to the second-ranked proposer, Bremick Construction, for negotiations. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Chad. Any commissioners have some questions? Tom?
Yes, thank you, Chad. I was interested to see that fees were only 10% of the total in the first round. How close were the first and second proposers on the fees? Because and the reason I'm asking is I'm concerned that we don't want to try to give it to somebody who is so far out of line on the fees that it doesn't make any sense to do it.
Yeah, good point. Understood. So The lowest in the fees was actually CB Construction, and they were the lowest ranked proposer. Um,
Okay.
Their all-in
I'm just,
fee,
yeah, I'm asking between the top two.
the top two, let's see, there was about, I can do my math real quick. There's about 115,000
Difference?
difference, all-in costs, and that includes general condition costs, fee, bond, GL insurance, and pre-construction costs. So there's a bunch of costs wrapped up into that analysis. For reference, for the pre-construction fee, the low was 39,500 and P&C was 43,498.
Okay, so that's the contract you're trying to negotiate now, or is it
Yes.
a bigger contract you're trying to negotiate now?
Yeah, we're looking for the pre-construction services. So all the
Okay,
GC, the bonds and all that will be more at the GMP level.
okay, and then where did the other number? So I assume that you had them break down their fees for the pre-construction and then estimate for the fees for the construction? Is that what happened?
Estimate, so they give us general conditions and stuff. So we have a general, we have a GMP listed. And so what we're gonna do as we go through this process is we're gonna try to work to that number. They gave us their fees that go above and beyond that. So, and their bond fees and their GL insurance fees. So fees associated with working to that GMP. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense.
Chad, you probably are, but I'm not following. So so I understand the first comparison, and that doesn't concern me that there was that much of a difference between the low and the one we're talking about. But tell me about what the second set of fees involves, please.
Okay, let me bring this up real quick. So we have a general condition fee. And that's the largest fee.
Okay, and what are general condition fees?
So let me get that matrix out. Stephen, do you want to help me out with the general condition fees? It's all encompassed in that, if you think you're on mute.
I've got the spreadsheet up too. Would that be
Yeah,
helpful
that's
if I
what I'm
just
looking for.
shared it? Let me see if I can get which button I did hit on this one. There we go. It's at the bottom. Oh, I have to request. All right, let me request it. Can everyone see the spreadsheet? Make it a little bit bigger here.
Yes.
Okay, so the two firms we're talking about is PNC Construction and then Brevik Construction. So what you can see what Chad was talking about was the pre-construction fee. So that is the services that are, assisting with the design phases, putting together, initial estimating and such. So PNC, the leading firm is 43,000. Bremick was at 84, so almost double. And you could see the range of it actually. CB Construction was the lowest at around 40. Perlo, very similar to PNC at 50, but it ranged all the way up to the highest, which was R&H Construction at 150. Otherwise, the other ones seem to be centered around somewhere in the 40s to 50s to 60s was the majority of them. So Bremick is a little bit on the high end of the bell curve there. So then we have general conditions, which relate to cost associated with running the job. It could be trailers, cleanup. I'm sorry, I'm coming from a cold here, so I'm trying to think a little bit quicker. But it's general conditions. It has to do with all the items that you need to operate your field office and the project itself. The fee is the fee that they're charging to act as general contractor on it. So you can see there, if we talked about general conditions, it generally ranges around, it looks like around $1 million, and with a slight differential between Bremick and PNC construction. The fee, again, this is sort of their cost is providing this, the general contracting service. So Bremick's 2.45, PNC is slightly higher at 2.85.
Is that
The
two
net,
point eight five of what? What's the
that
percentage of?
would be on the construction cost.
So it's cost plus it.
Wouldn't that be on the
Doesn't seem-
guaranteed maximum price?
Yeah.
Okay,
So then we have the bonding percentage, general liability insurance. We talked about the pre-con fee. So all in, between Bremick and PNC construction, we were roughly seeing a little bit under $100,000 difference between the two.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. And one more question. I have forgotten what we anticipate the guaranteed maximum price will be, or the cost of doing this. So just give me an idea of what the 2.45 versus the 2.85 difference is, if over what our best guess, and I know it's not.
I think we were saying 17 million is the
Yeah.
overall.
Okay, so that's 0.4% of 17 million. You probably do that in your head. I'm gonna have to use my phone.
It's between 416 to 484. So
Okay,
roughly maybe 70,000 difference.
okay, great. Thank you. This is very helpful to me to see what we're talking about and what the differentials are between the people. So I appreciate that.
No problem. Chad, I believe you have this whole document, correct?
Yeah, I have that document. Sorry, I should have had this up, but we also have an exhibit too that's got the cost of work matrix. That's what I was looking for when I was fumbling around,
Okay.
that highlighted which like general condition fees, what's all encompassed in that.
Yeah.
For instance, it's got project manager fees, assistant project manager, project engineering, clerical, schedule, and then it goes into more construction related stuff like the job office, the storage trailers, rental thereof, document printing, cost estimating, value engineering, temporary porta potties. So it kind of runs the gamut of things as far as the general conditions go.
And that cost estimate would just be anything during construction. The pre-con fee is really the one that
Correct.
puts together the GMP.
Correct. Yeah, I was just going back to Commissioner Tankersley's question for the GCs when I was fumbling around. I meant to have this cost matrix up and I couldn't find it.
Great.
great. Thank you. Any other commissioners have questions? Adam?
Thank you, Mayor Morris. Looking at that last spreadsheet that was just up, it seems like we're picking between the first and third candidates. Why wasn't the Kirby outfit moved forward? And what other things were evaluated to drive their score down to the 355 versus where the other two showed up in phase one at the 400, when it looks like from the fee schedule they were a stronger candidate?
Yeah, so when we were looking at the competitive range, the way staff viewed it was we had two that kind of stood out as far as the scores go that were closely lumped together. The other ones, Kirby Nagelhoot, for instance, I mean, they had a 20-point difference as far as scoring goes from like the next, if I remember right. But there was a clump of like the rest, basically, with the exception of one other. And so we felt like if we open it up to Kirby Nagelhoot, we would basically have to open it up to everybody except for number 7.
Sounds good. And then from our previous meeting, and who we've been using for this phase of the consultation, they were going to kind of do a deeper dive into who we ended up using or who we wanted to move forward with in this particular process, and I just wanted to make sure that that was done and it wasn't just surface level of interviewing the looking at the numbers, but actually also interviewing the personalities and who would be our prospective project manager.
Yeah, and that's what we did during the interview process. There was, there's a lot to be said there because we're going to be working with this firm for 2 to 3 years. And so having that connection and that, okay, I can work with this person. We're going to be in meetings weekly. There was PNC, there was a connection there. Felt very strongly about that. We have done some research as far as some of the references. They actually completed the Patton Middle School seismic project here a few years ago, and also completed the Newbie Elementary School. I don't know how many years that's been, but talked with some representatives at the school district. They were really pleased with their performance, and also talked to a couple others that have worked with them, both in the architectural world, because in CMGC we're a team. And so I wanted to kind of get a perspective on what an architectural firm would thought of PNC, and also a project manager side on the construction. And we've got everything's been very positive.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that that was covered.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that all for you, Adam?
It is. Thank you.
Commissioner Elmer? Denny?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch back on that last slide. The
Oops. Denny, you froze.
entire project.
Can you try repeating that again? You kind of froze during your.
On the previous slide, their fee that showed 2.15 and 2.85, I think is what it was.
Mhm.
Is that for the entirety of the project or just the pre-construction portion of it?
Go ahead.
Sorry, Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's for the entirety of it. So we have the pre-con fee in there. And then that would be the fees that would be associated with the GMP if we happen to get to that point.
Okay. It's a lot of money, but it seems like seems reasonable. I would expect it a little more.
So as a metric, like Bremick is at 84, PNC is at 43. However, the difference in the end all is PNC is still 70,000 or so less than, actually a little bit more than that, less than Bremick.
Okay.
Any other questions? I don't think I see any. So we need a motion if we want to proceed. Anybody willing to make a motion?
Yes, and as indicated by the memorandum, it would be a motion to direct issuance of a notice of intent to award and begin contract negotiations pursuant to solicitation RFP 03182025 with the highest ranked proposer, PNC Construction, for the construction manager, general contractor for the office expansion, remodel, and warehouse seismic retrofit projects, subject to no protest being filed. That would authorize the mayor. Well, actually, we would bring back, having done that, we would actually bring back the contract for your subsequent approval. So we don't need an authorization for the mayor and clerk to sign.
Commissioner Tankersley?
And Sam, that's just for the first phase, right? The design phase?
Well, we're going to negotiate the contract before we would go through the design phase, and then the GMCG and the CMGC model. We execute a contract will get us to the GMP. At that point, to go further, we have to amend the contract. So we would come back to you with a GMP proposal, and you'd get a chance to look at that, look at the price, and say, do we want to go forward? So, but the contract itself is a fully loaded contract. We're not going to have to renegotiate the whole thing from the beginning. We would amend to the GMP and move forward under the terms of the contract.
But the contract you bring back to us will have an out that if the guaranteed maximum price comes back what we consider unreasonably high, then we can stop, we can we can revoke this contract or this agreement.
You can view it as an out or an in. It's actually an in. You're amending to go forward. So I would probably say it's more of an in than an out, but yes.
Okay,
That's right.
thank you. So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Trina? Do you, roll call? Or do I need to, can I just ask for,
Yep, you can just call for a vote on this one.
okay, call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. And then Chad, are you gonna also tell us about the warehouse seismic study?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so included in your packet also is a seismic study for the warehouse. One of the things in the master plan completed in 2023, it provided kind of a roadmap for construction phasing as we move forward and start executing the master plan. We are looking for, at this project, phases 0.5 and phase 1. Phase 5, the biggest component of that is the seismic strengthening of the warehouse. As we moved into as we're moving into schematic design, one of the major tasks of the scope of services with MW&L architects is to evaluate the two options with the warehouse. And one of them is just to seismically upgrade the warehouse as it is existing. It's kind of a standalone, if you will. That's what's currently built into MWA's scope of services. The other part, or option B, as it's listed in the memo and also in the report, is to seismically strengthen the warehouse through an addition by basically connecting the two buildings and making them operate more as one, as opposed to having two standalone buildings. The expansion of the warehouse, if we were to expand it, is slated for phase 3, which is in 2035. So we wanted to look at this because obviously we're going to be impacting operations. We're going to be impacting everything around the warehouse right now in this phase, the earliest of the phases. And so we just wanted to put this study in front of you to kind of, does it make sense to advance with warehouse addition in phase 0.5 to lessen the impact operationally and financially, because we're going to be touching it twice. So we just wanted to put this report in front of you more for review purposes now. Staff will come together with a recommendation probably at the May 20th meeting, but we just wanted to forward you this information so you had time to review it.
Great. Thank you. Did any commissioners want to ask any brief questions right now, or we can wait? We're definitely going to talk about it later.
I have one brief question and maybe just help them get ready for things.
Okay.
It looked to me like one of the big savings was that you weren't having the escalation of prices over the period, but by doing it sooner. And that makes sense to me, but have we also looked at what we're losing on, because we're spending the money now on the government pool? What if you could just let us know what that time value of money cost will be so we can compare apples and apples, please. Does that make sense?
Yep,
got it.
we can do that.
Yep.
Thank you. I mean, don't get me wrong. It makes sense to me to do all at once from what I've seen here, but I can't really tell without backing that cost out of not having the money to invest.
Yeah.
Any other commissioners? I don't see any. Anything else to discuss before we close this meeting?
I have
No?
no further.
Okay. Then I will close the meeting at 2:55 p.m. Thank you, Chad, and everyone else for making time for the meeting today.
Thank you all for making time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Take care.
Chad.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.